The last human. The neon-lit streets of Nexus Prime buzzed with the cacophony of 1,000 alien species. Towering skyscrapers reached into the purple sky, their gleaming surfaces reflecting the light of 3 moons. In this sprawling galactic melting pot, beings from every corner of the known universe mingled, traded, and schemed. But among the diverse throng, one species was conspicuously absent. Humans, once a rising power in the galactic community, had vanished almost entirely from the cosmic stage. Their disappearance was the stuff of whispered legends and cantina tales, a mystery that had puzzled the galaxy for generations. In a dingy alleyway, far from the glittering main thoroughfares, a hooded figure moved with practiced stealth. Zara, the last known human in the galaxy, had survived by staying in the shadows, always one step ahead of those who would see her kind erased from existence. Zara's emerald eyes scanned her surroundings as she navigated the back streets. Her hand never strayed far from the concealed blaster at her hip. Years of being hunted had honed her instincts to a razor's edge. Every shadow could hide an assassin, every friendly face a potential betrayer. As she rounded a corner, a commotion caught her attention. A group of Kraxian thugs, their scaled hides glistening in the dim light, had cornered a young Lutarian. The fox-like alien cowered as the Kraxians closed in, their cruel laughter echoing off the grimy walls. Zara hesitated, every fiber of her being screamed at her to keep moving, to not draw attention to herself. But something about the terror in the young Lutarian's eyes stirred a long-buried part of her soul. With a resigned sigh, Zara stepped into view. "Hey, Uglies," she called out, her voice rough from disuse. "Pick on someone your own size." The Kraxians turned, their reptilian eyes narrowing at the interruption. The leader, a brute with a scar running down his snout, bared his teeth in a mockery of a smile. "Well, well," he hissed. "What do we have here? A little girl playing hero." Zara's hood had fallen back, revealing her distinctly human features. The Kraxians exchanged glances, a mix of surprise and greed flickering across their faces. "Boss," one of them whispered, "I think that's a human." The leader's eyes widened, then narrowed with cruel calculation. "Change of plans, boys," he growled. "Forget the furball. The Confederacy will pay a fortune for this one." Zara didn't wait for them to make the first move. In one fluid motion, she drew her blaster and fired. The leader's right hand exploded in a shower of scales and blood, his weapon clattering to the ground. What followed was a blur of motion and violence. Zara moved with inhuman speed, her body a weapon honed by years of survival. She ducked under a swinging fist, her elbow connecting with a scaly throat. A kick sent another Kraxian flying into a pile of garbage. In moments, it was over. The alley was littered with groaning, unconscious bodies. Zara stood in the center, her chest heaving, a wild light in her eyes that spoke of barely contained fury. The young Lutarian stared at her with a mixture of awe and fear. You're really a human?" he asked, his voice trembling. Zara holstered her blaster, pulling her hood back up. "Kid, if you're smart, you'll forget you ever saw me," she growled. But as she turned to leave, the Lutarian called out, "Wait, please, my name's Crix. I've never met a human before. The stories say you're all gone." Zara paused, conflict evident in her stance. Every instinct told her to run, to disappear back into the shadows. But something in the young alien's voice gave her pause. "The stories are mostly true, kid," she said without turning around. "I'm the last of my kind as far as I know. And trust me, that's not a good thing to be." Crix scrambled to his feet, his bushy tail twitching nervously. "But why? What happened to the humans? The histories are all vague, and nobody seems to know the truth." Zara sighed, her shoulders sagging under the weight of untold years. The truth is that the galaxy feared us. Humanity was young, brash, and terrifyingly adaptable. We solved problems that had puzzled other species for millennia. We expanded faster than anyone thought possible, and that scared the hell out of the established powers. She turned to face Crix, her eyes haunted by memories. The Galactic Confederacy decided we were a threat that needed to be eliminated. They launched a surprise attack on Earth, our homeworld. Billions died in the first hour. Crix's ears flattened against his head. That's horrible. But surely other species protested, helped. A bitter laugh escaped Zora's lips. Some did, but not enough. Most stood by and watched as humanity was hunted to the brink of extinction. A few of us escaped, went into hiding. But they never stopped looking. The sound of approaching sirens cut through the night air. Zora tensed, her hand moving back to her weapon. That's my cue to leave, kid. Do yourself a favor and forget this ever happened. But as she turned to disappear into the labyrinth of back alleys, Crix called out once more. Take me with you. Zora froze. What? Crix stood straighter, a determined look in his eyes. I said, take me with you. I'm tired of living in fear, of watching the Confederacy bully everyone. If you're really the last human, you need allies. Let me help. For a long moment, Zora said nothing. The sirens grew louder, and shadows began to move at the far end of the alley. Finally, she made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Keep up, kid, she growled. And if you slow me down, I'm leaving you behind. As Zora and Crix vanished into the neon-lit night, neither of them realized that their chance encounter had set in motion a chain of events that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. The last human, and a young alien outcast, united by circumstance and a shared desire for justice. The hunt was on, but this time, humanity wouldn't go quietly into the night. The echo of a species long thought silenced was about to become a roar that would be heard across the stars. Legends awakened. The stolen freighter shuddered as it punched through the atmosphere of Nova HFY, a forgotten world on the fringes of Confederacy space. In the cockpit, Zora's hands danced over the controls, her face a mask of concentration, as she guided the ship through a field of debris left over from some long-ago battle. Beside her, Crix watched in awe. In the weeks since their escape from Nexus Prime, the young Lutarian had seen the last human perform feats he'd thought impossible. Zora had outmaneuvered Confederacy patrols, sliced through security systems that were supposed to be unbreakable, and displayed a tenacity that bordered on superhuman. How did you learn to fly like this? Crix asked, his eyes wide as Zora threaded the needle between two massive chunks of a destroyed battlecruiser. Zora's lips tightened, a flicker of pain crossing her features. My father taught me, she said after a moment. Before the purge. As the ship broke through the cloud cover, a vast jungle stretched out below them, punctuated by the crumbling remains of an ancient city. Zora brought the freighter down in a small clearing, the engines kicking up a cloud of red dust. What is this place? Crix asked as they disembarked, his nose twitching at the unfamiliar sense. Zora pulled out a battered datapad, her eyes scanning the information displayed. If I'm right, this was once a human colony, one of the first we established outside our home system. As they made their way through the dense foliage, Zora's mind drifted back to the day everything changed. She had been just a child, barely 10 years old, when the Confederacy ships appeared in Earth's skies. The memory washed over her, as vivid as the day it happened. Sirens wailed across New Chicago, the massive arcology that housed millions. Zora clung to her father's hand as they raced through crowded corridors, the ground shaking with each impact from the orbital bombardment. Dad, what's happening? She cried, struggling to keep up with his long strides. Captain John Reeves, decorated pilot of the Earth Defense Force, scooped his daughter into his arms. It's going to be okay, sweetheart, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. We're going to get through this. They reached a heavily armored door, guarded by grim-faced soldiers. John flashed his ID, and they were ushered inside. The room beyond was a hive of activity, screens displaying the unfolding catastrophe. Admiral Helena Chen, her uniform immaculate, despite the circumstances, turned to greet them. "John, thank God you made it. We're initiating Protocol Orpheus." Zara watched as her father's face paled. "But sir, we swore we'd never use it." Helena's eyes were hard. "We're out of options, Captain. The Confederacy hit us too hard, too fast. Orpheus is humanity's only chance for survival now." John nodded, then knelt before Zara. "Sweetheart, I need you to be brave. You're going to go with Admiral Chen. She'll keep you safe." Zara's eyes filled with tears. "But what about you?" Her father smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "I have to fly one last mission. But I promise I'll find you again, no matter what." As John Reeves turned to leave, Helena placed a hand on his shoulder. "Good luck, old friend. Give them hell." The last Zara saw of her father was his back, as the doors closed behind him, straight and proud, walking towards a battle he knew he couldn't win. "Zara, Zara." Crix's voice snapped her back to the present. The Lutherian was pointing at something half-buried in the undergrowth. "I think I found something." Shaking off the echoes of the past, Zara moved to investigate. As they cleared away the vines and debris, a metal hatch was revealed, its surface etched with a familiar symbol, a phoenix rising from a field of stars. "No way," Zara breathed, her heart racing. "This is it. This is an Orpheus cache." Crix tilted his head, confused. "Orpheus? What's that?" Zara ran her hands over the hatch, searching for the hidden lock mechanism. It was humanity's last-ditch survival plan. A network of hidden outposts scattered across the galaxy, filled with our most advanced technology, and staffed by volunteers who agreed to enter cryosleep. They were supposed to wait until it was safe to reawaken and rebuild. With a hiss of escaping air, the hatch unsealed. Zara and Crix exchanged a glance before descending into the darkness below. As they reached the bottom of the ladder, lights flickered to life, revealing a vast chamber filled with rows of sleek devices and dormant computer terminals. "I don't understand," Crix said, his tail twitching nervously. "If this place exists, why are you the last human? Shouldn't there be others?" Zara's face was grim as she approached a central console. Something went wrong. Most of the Orpheus sites were discovered and destroyed by the Confederacy. The few that remained, well, cryosleep isn't perfect. Centuries passed. Systems failed. She placed her hand on the console, and it hummed to life, recognizing her DNA. Screens lit up around the chamber, displaying streams of data. Zara's eyes widened as she took it all in. "This is incredible," she whispered. "Weapons, ships, terraforming equipment, everything we'd need to start over. And it's all still functional." Crix watched in amazement as Zara interfaced with the system, her fingers flying over holographic displays. "So what do we do now?" Zara turned to him, a fire in her eyes that he hadn't seen before. "We wake it up. All of it. The Confederacy thinks humanity is dead and gone, but they're about to learn how wrong they are." As if in response to her words, the chamber began to hum with awakening power. Machines that had lain dormant for centuries stirred to life. In a hidden hangar, starships designed by the greatest minds of a lost civilization powered up their engines. And deep within the heart of the facility, a single cryopod hissed open, its occupant drawing breath for the first time in over 300 years. Zara and Crix spun around at the sound. There, emerging from a cloud of cryogenic mist, stood a man in the uniform of an Earth Defense Force officer. He blinked, disoriented, then focused on Zara with eyes that mirrored her own. "Dad?" Zara whispered, her voice choked with emotion. John Reeves stumbled forward, catching himself on the edge of the cryopod. "Zara, my God, is that you? How long was I asleep?" As Zara rushed to embrace her father, alarms began to blare throughout the facility. On the main screen, a message flashed in urgent red letters. ALERT. Confederacy ship PSDTECTD in orbit. The last human was no longer alone, But the battle for survival had only just begun. As father and daughter reunited, and an alien watched in awe, the forgotten weapons of humanity stirred from their long slumber. The galaxy was about to be reminded why they had feared this young, brash species so long ago. The echo of humanity was about to become a roar. The hunter and the hunted. The command deck of the Confederacy dreadnought Eternal Vigilance hummed with activity. Holographic displays flickered with reports from across the sector, each one cataloging the futile search for the last remnants of humanity. At the center of it all stood Commander Vexlor, his 4 arms crossed behind his back as he glared at the galactic map. Vexlor was a Quatari, a species known for their strategic brilliance and unwavering dedication to order. His exoskeleton gleamed a deep purple in the low light, and his compound eyes reflected the stars like fractured galaxies. For decades, he had led the hunt for any surviving humans, driven by a fanatical belief in the danger they posed. "Commander," a junior officer approached, her antennae twitching nervously. "We've detected an energy surge on Novaris VI. It matches the signature of human technology." Vexler's mandibles clicked in excitement. "After all these years," he chittered, "prepare my ship. I will lead this hunt personally." As the dreadnought changed course, Vexler's mind drifted back to the day that had set him on this path. He had been young then, freshly appointed to the Confederacy's diplomatic corps. The humans, brash and confident, had requested membership in the galactic community. Vexlor had been tasked with assessing their application. What he found terrified him. In mere centuries, humans had accomplished what took other species millennia. Their adaptability, their drive, their sheer potential for growth. It was unprecedented. In his report, Vexlor had written a single line that would shape the fate of the galaxy. Humanity is not a species. It is an extinction-level event waiting to happen. The Confederacy Council had agreed, and the purge was initiated. Now, after centuries of hunting, Vexlor was closing in on his prey. He would not fail. Back on Novaris VI, alarms blared through the ancient human facility. Zara, her father John, and Crix raced through corridors that hadn't seen footsteps in centuries, frantically working to bring long-dormant systems online. "The main reactor is at 60% and climbing," John called out, his fingers dancing over a holographic interface. Despite the centuries in cryosleep, muscle memory took over as he interfaced with the familiar technology. "Weapon systems are coming online, but the orbital defense grid is shot. We're sitting ducks if they decide to bombard us from orbit." Zara nodded grimly, her mind racing. "We need a distraction, something to keep them busy while we get the hell out of here." She turned to Crix, who was staring wide-eyed at the flurry of activity. "Kid, I need you to access the communication array. Think you can handle it?" Crix swallowed hard but nodded. I think so. What do you need me to do?" "Broadcast a signal," Zara explained. "Make it look like we're scattered across the planet. Multiple outposts, multiple energy signatures. Buy us some time." As Crix scampered off to carry out his task, John placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Zara," he said softly, his eyes filled with a mix of pride and sorrow. "I can't believe how much you've grown." "How long?" 312 years, Dad," Zora replied, her voice cracking slightly. I thought I was the only one left." John pulled her into a fierce hug. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I never wanted to leave you alone. But now that we're together, we're going to make this right. We're going to show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of." Their moment was interrupted by a violent tremor that shook the entire facility. Dust rained down from the ceiling as the distant sound of explosions echoed through the complex. "They're starting their bombardment," John growled. "We're out of time. Zara, get to the hangar and prep the Thunderchild for launch. I'll finish the data transfer and meet you there." Zara hesitated for a moment, reluctant to let her father out of her sight again. But years of survival had honed her instincts, and she knew every second counted. With a quick nod, she sprinted towards the hangar. The vast chamber housing humanity's last fleet was a sight to behold. Sleek ships of various sizes stood ready, their designs far advanced from anything the Confederacy currently fielded. At the center stood the Thunderchild, a Corvette-class vessel that combined speed, stealth, and firepower in a package that would make any spacer drool. As Zara began the launch sequence, Crix burst into the hangar, out of breath. "I did it," he gasped. "I set up false signals all over the planet. They're splitting their forces to investigate." "Good work, kid," Zara said with a grim smile. "Now strap in. This ride's about to get bumpy." Moments later, John arrived, a data core clutched in his hands. "I've got everything," he announced as he boarded. "Schematics, star charts, the location of other Orpheus catches. If we can reach them before the Confederacy, we might just have a chance." The Thunderchild's engines roared to life as the hangar doors began to open. Above, they could see flashes of light as Confederacy ships engaged the automated defense systems Crix had activated. "All right," Zara said, her hands gripping the controls. "Let's show these bastards what humanity can do." The Thunderchild shot out of the hangar like a bullet from a gun, its advanced stealth systems immediately cloaking it from conventional sensors. As they broke atmosphere, they found themselves in the middle of a fierce battle. Confederacy ships fired at phantom targets, their sensors confused by the false signals and decoys. In the midst of the chaos, a smaller vessel detached from the Confederacy dreadnought. Unlike the others, it seemed to cut through the distractions, heading unerringly towards the Thunderchild's position. "Impossible," John muttered, staring at the sensor readings. "They shouldn't be able to track us." Zara's eyes narrowed as she juked the ship through a field of debris, narrowly avoiding a stray shot from a Confederacy cruiser. "Someone's piloting that ship manually," she said. "They're not relying on sensors. They're hunting us." Aboard his personal hunter-killer ship, Commander Vexlor's compound eyes gleamed with predatory focus. Years of studying human tactics, of obsessing over every scrap of data about the extinct species, had honed his instincts. He didn't need sensors to tell them where his prey was. He could feel it. "I have you now," he chittered, mandibles clicking in anticipation as he pushed his engines to the limit. What followed was a deadly dance among the stars. The Thunderchild, piloted by the combined skill of Zara and John, pulled off maneuvers that should have been impossible. They used the confused Confederacy fleet as cover, at times coming within meters of larger ships as they dodged Vexlor's relentless pursuit. Crix, strapped into a jump seat, watched in awe as father and daughter worked in perfect sync, their hands flying over controls, executing split-second decisions that kept them alive against overwhelming odds. "We can't keep this up forever," John growled as a near miss rocked the ship. "We need to lose them and make the jump to hyperspace." Zara's eyes darted across the tactical display, her mind racing. Then a reckless plan formed. "Dad, remember that trick you pulled in the Battle of Proxima? The one that got you court-martialed?" John's eyes widened. "Zara, no, it's too risky. The odds of pulling it off air. The odds of surviving if we don't try are worse." Zara cut him off. "You up for it, old man?" A slow grin spread across John's face. "Let's do it." What happened next would be debated in pilot academies across the galaxy for generations to come. The Thunderchild cut its engines, going into a free fall towards Nova SVI's largest moon. Vexlor, certain of his victory, pushed his engines to the maximum to close the gap. At the last possible second, as the rocky surface of the moon filled their view screen, Zara fired the maneuvering thrusters, sending the Thunderchild into a spin. The ship skimmed the moon's surface, using its gravity as a slingshot. The sudden acceleration was brutal, and warnings blared as the ship's structural integrity was pushed to its limits. Vexlor, caught off guard by the suicidal maneuver, had no time to adjust. His ship plowed into the moon's surface, erupting in a fireball that lit up the night side of Nova SVI. As the Thunderchild shot past the moon, Zora punched in the coordinates for their hyperspace jump. The stars stretched into lines, and they were gone, leaving behind a confused and battered Confederacy fleet. In the sudden silence of hyperspace, Zora slumped in her chair, exhaustion finally catching up with her. John reached over, squeezing her shoulder. "That was some of the finest flying I've ever seen," he said softly. "Your mother would be proud." Crix, his fur standing on end from the adrenaline, looked between the two humans in awe. That was incredible. I've never seen anyone fly like that." Zara managed a tired smile. "Welcome to the rebellion, kid. It only gets crazier from here." As the Thunderchild hurtled through hyperspace towards the coordinates of the next Orpheus cache, the small crew allowed themselves a moment of victory. They had struck the first blow, awakened the echoes of a forgotten past. But the real battle was just beginning. Humanity was back, and the galaxy would never be the same. Echoes of the past. The Thunderchild dropped out of hyperspace with a flash of pseudomotion, its hull still bearing the scars of their narrow escape from Novaris VI. Before them hung a blue-green jewel of a world, wreathed in white clouds and orbited by a single cratered moon. "Is that?" Crix breathed, his eyes wide with wonder. "Earth," John confirmed, his voice thick with emotion. "Humanity's cradle. Our home." Zara's hands tightened on the controls. And now, the most heavily guarded secret in the galaxy. After the Purge, the Confederacy had declared Earth a forbidden world. The official story was that the planet had been rendered uninhabitable, a cautionary tale of the price of defiance. In reality, it was a treasure trove of human technology and history that the Confederacy wanted to keep hidden from the rest of the galaxy. As they approached, the ship's sensors came alive with warnings. A complex network of stealth satellites and automated defense platforms surrounded the planet, ready to vaporize any unauthorized vessel that came too close. "How are we going to get through that?" Crix asked, his ears flattening against his head. John smiled, the expression a mix of pride and mischief. "With the oldest trick in the book, kid. We're going to walk right through the front door." Over the next hour, John and Zara worked in tandem, their fingers dancing over holographic interfaces as they reprogrammed the Thunderchild's transponder. To any observer, they would appear to be a routine Confederacy patrol, complete with all the necessary clearance codes. As they breached the atmosphere, Zara gasped. The Earth she remembered from her childhood was a world of towering arcologies and bustling spaceports. But the planet below them now was a vision of pristine wilderness. Vast forests covered land that had once been cities. Herds of animals roamed plains that had been scorched clean during the initial bombardment. "It's beautiful," Crix whispered, pressing his nose against the view screen. "And dangerous," John added grimly. "The Confederacy didn't just abandon Earth. They've been studying it, trying to unlock the secrets of our technology. We need to be careful." They set the Thunderchild down in a clearing that had once been the heart of New Chicago. As they disembarked, the air was thick with the scent of growing things, a far cry from the recycled atmosphere of space stations and ships that Zara had grown accustomed to. "So, what exactly are we looking for?" Crix asked as they made their way through the underbrush. "The vault," Zara replied. It was humanity's ultimate failsafe, a database containing the sum total of human knowledge and achievement. If it's still intact, it could be the key to rebuilding everything we've lost. As they pushed deeper into the overgrown ruins, John's expression grew increasingly troubled. "Something's not right," he muttered. "The defenses we're seeing, they're not just to keep people out. They're containment measures." Before Zara could respond, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. With a deafening roar, something massive burst from the earth, showering them with dirt and debris. As the dust settled, they found themselves face to face with a nightmarish amalgamation of flesh and machine. "By the stars," Crix whimpered, cowering behind Zora. "What is that thing?" The creature before them stood easily 4 meters tall, its body a patchwork of organic tissue and gleaming metal. Multiple limbs, each ending in vicious-looking weapons, extended from its torso. But most disturbing was its face, or rather, faces. Dozens of human visages were grafted onto its skull, their expressions frozen in eternal agony. Abomination. John spat, his face a mask of horror and rage. The Confederacy didn't just study our technology. They've been experimenting with it, combining it with people. The monstrosity let out a bone-chilling shriek and lunged forward. Zara reacted on instinct, pushing Crix out of the way and rolling to avoid a vicious swipe from one of its bladed arms. John opened fire with his pulse rifle, but the energy bolts seemed to do little more than anger the creature. What followed was a desperate battle through the ruins of humanity's greatest city. The abomination pursued them relentlessly, its inhuman speed and strength making it a terrifying opponent. Zara and John fought with everything they had, using the terrain to their advantage, setting traps and ambushes that would have felled any normal enemy. But this was no normal enemy. It adapted to their tactics, learning and evolving with each encounter. And worse, it seemed to be calling for reinforcements. In the distance, they could hear the sounds of more monstrosities awakening. The vault. Zara gasped as they took a moment to catch their breath in the ruins of an old subway station. We have to reach it before more of those things find us. John nodded grimly. I think I know where it is. The old Sears Tower. If anywhere was secure enough to house the vault, it would be there. As they made their way through the underground tunnels, guided by John's centuries-old memories, Crix spoke up. I don't understand. Why would the Confederacy do this? Create these things? Fear, Zara replied, her voice hard. They feared what humanity might become, so they tried to twist us into weapons they could control. But they underestimated us. They always have. When they finally emerged from the tunnels, they found themselves at the base of a massive structure that had once been one of the tallest buildings in the world. Now it was overgrown with vines and vegetation, nature reclaiming what man had built. But they weren't alone. A group of the abominations had gathered, as if guarding the entrance to the tower. And at their center stood a figure that made Zora's blood run cold. No, she whispered. It can't be. The figure turned, revealing a face that was hauntingly familiar. Admiral Helena Chen, the woman who had saved Zara all those centuries ago. But this wasn't the Admiral she remembered. This Helena was a cyborg, more machine than human, her eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Welcome home, Helena said, her voice a mechanical approximation of its former warmth. We've been waiting for you. John stepped forward, placing himself between the cyborg and his daughter. Helena, what have they done to you? The thing that had once been Admiral Chen smiled, the expression cold and alien. They've made us better, John. Stronger. The Confederacy feared humanity's potential, but they've helped us realize it. Join us, and together we can reshape the galaxy. Zara's mind raced. The vault, humanity's last hope, lay just beyond this twisted version of a woman she had once looked up to. But to reach it, they would have to fight through an army of abominations, led by one of the greatest military minds in human history. As the abominations tensed, ready to attack, Zara made a decision. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device, a quantum key that had been passed down through generations of survivors, its purpose unknown until now. Dad, she said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. Get Crix to the ship. I'll handle this. John's eyes widened as he recognized the device. Zara, no, you can't. It's the only way, she cut him off. This is what I was born for. This is how we save humanity. Before John could protest further, Zara sprinted towards the tower's entrance. The abominations surged forward, but she was faster, fueled by desperation and centuries of pent-up rage. She dodged and weaved, using every trick she had learned in her long years of survival. As she reached the entrance, she could hear the sounds of battle behind her. John and Crix were buying her time, holding off the horde with everything they had. Zara's heart ached, but she pushed forward. The fate of her entire species rested on what she did next. The interior of the tower was a maze of advanced technology, much of it far beyond even her understanding. But something inside her, some inherited memory or instinct, guided her steps. She ran up flights of stairs, through corridors that seemed to shift and change, until she finally reached a sealed door at the very top of the tower. With shaking hands, Zara inserted the quantum key into a nearly invisible slot. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a hiss of escaping air, the door slid open. The vault was not what she expected. Instead of banks of computers or storage devices, she found herself in a small circular room. At its center stood a pedestal, and on that pedestal rested a single glowing orb. As Zara approached, the orb pulsed with energy. She reached out, her fingers barely brushing its surface, and suddenly her mind was flooded with information. The true history of humanity, the secrets of their most advanced technology, the location of hidden outposts, and sleeping colonies scattered across the galaxy. It all poured into her consciousness in an instant. But with knowledge came understanding, and with understanding came a terrible choice. The vault was more than just a database. It was a weapon of unimaginable power, capable of rewriting the very fabric of reality. With it, Zara could undo the purge, restore Earth to its former glory, and give humanity the means to take revenge on those who had nearly destroyed them. But using it would come at a cost. The power required would burn out her mind, leaving her a hollow shell. And there was no guarantee that humanity, given such power, wouldn't become the very monsters the Confederacy had feared. As the abominations pounded at the door, as the cries of her father and Crix echoed from below, Zara stood at the crossroads of history. In her hands lay the power to reshape the galaxy, to right the wrongs of centuries past. But would the price be too high? And if she chose to use it, what kind of future would she be creating for the species she had fought so long to protect? With the fate of humanity hanging in the balance, Zara closed her eyes and made her choice. The echo of humanity was about to become a roar that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. But whether it would be a cry of triumph or a scream of despair remained to be seen. Humanity's resurgence. The universe held its breath as Zara stood at the precipice of destiny, the power of the vault surging through her. In that eternal moment, the weight of centuries pressed down upon her, the hopes, dreams, and sacrifices of countless humans who had fought and died to preserve this chance. With a deep breath, Zara made her choice. She would use the vault's power, but not for vengeance, not for dominance, but for balance. As her consciousness expanded, merging with the vast network of knowledge and power contained within the vault, Zara saw the true scope of the galaxy's history. She saw the fear that had driven the Confederacy to near genocide, the misunderstandings and mistakes on both sides that had led to this moment. And she saw a path forward. With a thought, Zara reached out across time and space. The abominations outside the vault chamber froze, then began to change. The cruel amalgamations of flesh and machine separated, reformed. Human bodies, minds, and souls were restored, freed from their technological prisons. Across the Earth, buried Confederacy research facilities erupted with light as their victims were liberated. Admiral Helena Chen gasped, her cybernetic implants falling away like shed skin, leaving her human once more. But Zara didn't stop there. Her consciousness expanded further, touching every corner of the galaxy. On countless worlds, hidden cryopods stirred to life, awakening the dormant human colonies that had slumbered through the long years of the purge. In the space around Earth, the Confederacy's defense grid came alive, but not to attack. Instead, it broadcast a message to every ship and station in range. To all sentient beings of the galaxy, we speak to you now not as conquerors, not as victims, but as equals. The age of fear and misunderstanding is over. We invite you to Earth to witness the rebirth of humanity and the dawn of a new era of cooperation. As Zara's power reached its zenith, she felt her physical form beginning to fade. But she was not afraid. With the last of her strength, she sent out one final pulse of energy, a gift to the galaxy she would no longer be part of in physical form. Knowledge flowed out across the stars. Not weapons or military secrets, but the best of what humanity had to offer. Medical breakthroughs that could end suffering for countless species, clean energy technologies that could heal polluted worlds, and most importantly, the true history of the conflict between humanity and the Confederacy, unvarnished and honest, so that all could learn from the mistakes of the past. In the vault chamber, John and Crix burst through the door just in time to see Zora's physical form dissolve into pure energy, merging with the vault itself. But her voice echoed in their minds, in the minds of every sentient being in the galaxy. The time for hiding is over. The time for fear is past. We have been given a second chance, not just humanity, but all of us. Let us build a future worthy of the sacrifices that have brought us to this moment. As her consciousness faded, becoming one with the vast network of knowledge she had unleashed, Zara felt a profound sense of peace. She had not erased the past, but she had given the galaxy a chance to learn from it, to build something better. In the days and weeks that followed, the galaxy experienced a transformation unlike any in recorded history. Ships from every corner of known space arrived at Earth, not as invaders, but as pilgrims and diplomats. They came to witness the miracle of humanity's rebirth, to offer apologies, and to begin the long process of building trust. John Reeves, once a captain in a long-forgotten war, now found himself at the center of a new kind of battlefield, one of words and ideas rather than weapons. As one of the few who remembered the world before the Purge, he became a bridge between the past and the future, helping to guide the newly awakened human colonies as they reintegrated into galactic society. Crix, the young Lutarian who had started this journey as a scared outcast, became an ambassador in his own right. His unique perspective as someone who had witnessed both the lengths humans would go to survive and their capacity for forgiveness made him invaluable in the delicate negotiations that followed. The Confederacy, faced with the truth of its actions and the undeniable reality of humanity's return, underwent its own revolution. Old guard leaders who had clung to fear and prejudice were ousted, replaced by those who saw the potential for a new and better future. But it wasn't an easy road. Centuries of fear and misunderstanding couldn't be erased overnight. There were those on both sides who clung to old hatreds, who saw the new peace as a threat to their power or their worldview. Terrorist attacks, attempted coups, and assassination attempts marked the early years of the new era. Yet for every act of violence, there were 1,000 acts of kindness and cooperation. Humans and aliens worked side by side to rebuild Earth, turning it into a shining beacon of what was possible when different species came together. The knowledge Zora had unleashed led to advancements that benefited all. Diseases that had plagued various species for millennia were cured. Dying worlds were restored to life. The secrets of faster-than-light travel were refined, opening up new frontiers for exploration. And through it all, the echo of Zora's final message resonated. The Vault, now a sentient entity infused with her consciousness, became a guardian of knowledge and a voice of wisdom. It did not rule or dictate, but offered guidance when asked, always pushing for understanding and growth. Decades passed, and the scars of the past began to heal. The galaxy entered a new golden age, one of exploration, scientific advancement, and cultural exchange. Humanity, once feared and nearly exterminated, became known as peacekeepers and innovators. On the 100th anniversary of what became known as the Resurgence, a great monument was unveiled in the heart of New Chicago. It depicted a human hand and an alien hand clasped together, reaching towards the stars. At its base was inscribed a simple message: to Zara Reeves, who showed us that the greatest power in the universe is not the ability to destroy, but the courage to forgive and the wisdom to learn from our mistakes. May we never forget the price of fear, nor the value of understanding. As the gathered crowds, humans and aliens alike, cheered and celebrated, a soft wind swept through the plaza. For a moment, those present could have sworn they heard a familiar voice on the breeze. The echo has become a symphony. Now it's up to you to keep the music playing. The story of humanity's near extinction and miraculous return would be told for generations to come. But it was not an ending. It was a beginning. A new chapter in the grand cosmic story, with challenges and wonders yet to be discovered. For in the vast expanse of the universe, there are always new frontiers to explore, new mysteries to unravel, and new ways to grow. The legacy of Zara Reeves, the last human who became the catalyst for a new age, would inspire countless souls to reach for the stars and beyond, united in the belief that together, anything is possible. And so, the echo of humanity became a rallying cry for unity, for progress, for the indomitable spirit that can overcome any obstacle. The galaxy would face new threats, new challenges, but it would face them together, stronger for the trials it had endured and the wisdom it had gained. The future, vast and unknown, beckoned, and humanity, reborn and renewed, stood ready to meet it head-on, hand in hand with the very beings who had once sought their destruction. For in the end, it was not the strength of their weapons or the advancement of their technology that had saved them. It was the power of understanding, the courage to forgive, and the undying hope that even in the darkest of times, a single spark can ignite a fire that illuminates the entire universe. The echo of humanity had become a roar, and its song would resonate through the cosmos for eternity.